You don't choose who you love, and you don't choose who you fall in love with, and you don't choose who you're attracted to. It just happens. My name is Georgina. I'm 23. I was born in Echuca, raised in Rochester, and now I live in Shepparton. I like to spend time with my family and my friends and just with people. Being around people is what fuels me to be a happy person. I love art, so I love looking at art and going to galleries. Because of my eyesight, it could end up that I might end up getting really bad vision and going blind. And I think that music has always been that extra thing that I know will keep me going. I play music when I'm at home all of the time, when I'm walking to work all the time. I'm passionate about a lot of things. I think it's making a difference. Like, I'm one of those people that, like, my career, as much as I love making coffee, it's not the be all end all of my life. Like, I'm more passionate about trying to make a difference. And it wasn't until this year when I joined so many different groups and being a part of, like, the festival that we had and being a part of diversity, that's something that's really important to me. Being able to be out and be proud of who I am and be around people that are also gay makes me feel wonderful. I had this conversation with Mum because we were going to a family event, and I said to her, you know, how many more times am I going to have to hide who I am as a person? Because my close family knows I'm gay, and some of my cousins who are around the same age as me have picked up on it, but there's some of the other family members that you can't necessarily tell. Like, you can't walk up to them and just say, I'm gay. That might affect them and you don't know their opinions of it. But at the same time, because they're your family, you don't want to hide who you are. And I said to Mum, and I said, you know, I was seeing someone at the time, and I said, is there ever going to be a time when I'm going to be allowed to bring anybody to a family event? Is that ever going to be okay? Mum and I had this fight, and she said a comment that I don't think she ever meant for me to take the way that I did, but she said, I don't know why you ever chose to be gay. It destroyed me almost for, like, I remember just hanging up the phone. It hit this spot in my heart that I didn't think that I had. I was almost destroyed as a person. Like, I'd worked so hard to build myself up, and for her to say that. And I remember Mum trying to call me back, and I didn't want to talk to her, and she didn't really understand. Like, I didn't speak to her for almost a month, which is very odd because I talk to my parents a lot. And by asking me, like, if I chose that, like, why would I choose to get bullied, to be harassed, to be a minority in the, like, the world that we live in? It's not a choice. And it takes a few years to figure out that, yes, maybe you are different. And you don't sit there and think, oh, I chose to be this way. You kind of think to yourself that it was who you were all along. It just took a long time for you to figure it out. Growing up in such a small town too, there wasn't gay people around. You didn't talk about it. It was just one of those topics that you knew existed. Like, you knew that there was Ellen DeGeneres and Portia that got married in America, and you knew that, like, Elton John and people like that. But it wasn't really anything that was ever brought up. It wasn't a topic of discussion. It wasn't talked about at school. I remember a guy in my class saying, oh, I saw these two girls kissing. Like, holy hell, like, what is that? So when I moved to Shep, I met different people that were gay, and I was like, it's okay here. So I kind of came out of my shell a lot more. I used to not, like, challenge anybody else's opinion. I'd kind of be the person in the group that would just be like, oh, okay, you know, that's your opinion. That's great. This is my opinion, but you don't like it, so I'm not going to say anything. And I remember when I was in years, I think it was 9 and 10, there was probably almost 9 or 10 of us that were in the group together, and this big fight happened, and I didn't have any friends for like a month. I got very dark. I would write in my diary, and the girls actually broke into my locker and stole my diary and read it and passed it around to a lot of people. And that really was very heartbreaking. And somebody actually hacked my email. Having people read and know what was inside my head wasn't exactly what I needed at that time. And I think too that that kind of made me a bit more withdrawn, and like I wouldn't talk to anybody, and I used to eat my feelings. I'm glad that I never acted on any of the thoughts that I had within my head to want to run away or to change my life or to do anything drastic. But I think knowing that I had my family support at the end of the day was what kept me going, because I've never, like, I cut myself on one occasion, and I was really very depressed at that stage. I got a knife and I just did it. And I just sat there and I did it for like a half an hour, and then I looked at it and I fell asleep because I was so upset. I was so emotionally overwhelmed that I just kind of got to that point where I did it, and then I was just like, okay, I'm going to sleep now. And I went to sleep, and I remember waking up a few hours later and looking at my arm and thinking, holy fuck, like what did I do to myself? And did I really get to that point where I couldn't take it anymore? And I remember going to work the next day and the girl saw it on my arm and she took me aside and she sat me down and she said, "Are you okay?" And I think that's kind of what might have changed my life. Like, she went and brought me this bandage because she's like, "You can't let people see that at work." And so I had to cover it. And I remember looking at it for days on end, looking at this bandage that I kept there. And I just remember thinking to myself, why would I ever want to do that? Like, why did I ever get to that point where I thought there wasn't a way out? And I was just so upset and angry and sad about so many things that had happened. And I felt that I had nobody. Like, I thought about calling like one of the helplines, but I didn't want to at the same time. Like, I didn't want help. I didn't want anything. I just wanted the pain to go away, the way that I felt inside myself. But when I think about that now, cutting myself didn't make any pain go away. It just it created a different pain that stopped the pain that I felt emotionally, created a physical pain, but at the same time, until I learnt to heal the mental and emotional pain within myself, the physical pain then stopped. It took me a good few months to, figure out and to, read about other people's experiences. Like, I looked up some websites, and I think that it's important that people find a way, like, whether you can encourage them to seek help from someone else or whether you can encourage them to empower themselves so that they can seek help within themselves, because that's kind of what I had to do, because I didn't feel like I felt like I'd be too embarrassed to say to somebody, "This is what I did, help me." You just read different things, and I just kind of Googled different articles about suicide. And when I read what parents had thought about what their child had done and how upset they were, it kind of hit home to me, and thought, how could I ever think that I could ever do this to my family and to my friends? And then I thought, but then it shouldn't be just about them. It should be, how could I ever do it to myself as well? I've never really felt like I've been bullied for being gay. I think I've been bullied for other things over my life, but not so much for being gay. And I think that it's hard enough to accept who you are, attracted to the same sex, which isn't what the normality is. So you've got to figure out a whole different array of things, like things that you don't get taught in school about, like sex education, and, things that people don't tell you. Some young people can't cope with it. So I think it's important that people provide the tools to them, which is why it's so important, the work that Damien does, especially with school groups, to enlighten people. I think diversity is very much an important group. I think GV Pride is as well. You don't have to, want to walk down the street and kiss in front of other people, but to just see people together, people have hope. To me, for somebody else to look at someone else and have hope, it can mean everything and anything at the same time. Like, they might have no hope whatsoever within their heart that it's going to get better, that anything's going to change, that their life is more meaningful than what they think it is. But if they look to a couple, or if they look to a single individual and they see a tiny glimmer of hope within themselves and within that person, then they've got so much more to live for. Just because I like girls doesn't mean I am, different in any way. You come across people every day that don't necessarily believe in gay marriage, but at the same time they say, I was allowed to get married, so I don't see why I should stop you. And I want to be able to sit there and say, at the end of the day, if I'm in a long-term relationship, I may not choose to get married, but I have the choice to. When I went to the first Equal Love rally was this year, I remember walking down the street shouting out these chants, and I remember thinking to myself, I'm so proud of the person that I've become, and it makes me so proud of myself to think that when I was 18 and 19, I didn't know who I was, and I didn't really care what happened in my life. I just worked to go and party and to have fun with my friends, and I didn't really care about much at all. Having my friends post on my Facebook wall too about how proud they were of me from the Out in the Open carnival, I was crying the second that I read that. It meant so much to know that the people in my life are also proud of me. It's not just a feeling that I have inside myself, that they're also proud.
To be marching for the first time.
It's insane. I don't know how I feel. Words can't describe the feeling of being around so many other gay and lesbian young people. old people, everybody. It's just like one giant happy family. I feel like I'm at some kind of party and it's just like run around in the streets and just scream and be happy.